The Culture Pop podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob Emrani.
Accident or injury, call Jacob Emrani. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mace. If you or a loved one is injured in any kind of accident, please don't wait. Call Jacob immediately for a free consultation. That's right, free. When an accident happens, it can turn your world upside down, so put the best on your side. Jacob doesn't even get paid unless you win. First name, first thought, first call, Jacob. After an accident, 24 hours a day, call 844-24-JACOB or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Welcome to the world of Culture Pop with Steve Mason and Sue Kalinsky. Culture, comedy, movies, TV, tech, authors, trends, pop. This is the Culture Pop Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 32 of the Culture Pop Podcast. Sue Kalinsky is here. Sue, this is a hard one.
It's a really hard one.
Our guests have won the Cannes Film Festival, South by Southwest, and the National Board of Review Awards for Best Documentary Feature. Now they've been nominated for both the Independent Spirit Award and the Academy Award for their harrowing true life story set inside the Syrian Revolution. The film is called For Sama. Waad, Al-Kateab, and Edward Watts are with us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're so glad to talk to you.
So, Waad, this film begins in 2011. You were a student at Aleppo University, and students, including yourself, began protesting the Assad government. What sparked those protests?
We lived under the regime control, the Assad, the father and the son, at that time for almost 50 years. And we've never had any chance to do what we want. The country was full of corruption. The authority forces controlling everything. We have no freedom of speech. Just, like the basic things that every person all over the world could think about. It wasn't allowed for us to have it. And the revolution was just like the first chance for us to prove to ourselves, to the world, that we deserve democracy and freedom, and we want to do that. And we are trying to do everything to gain that day.
At what point did you start filming? Did you start recording and creating this archive of footage?
Like immediately. And it wasn't just me, like so many activists we were trying just to record what's happening in Syria. From minute one, the Syrian regime was denying everything was happening. And they were saying that all of these demonstrations at Aleppo University or in any other city, they were saying that this is all fake and there's no people who's trying to protest against the regime. And we felt just this is one of the responsibility that we should do. As well as when you want to protest, it's also so important to capture every picture, every sound, every video. That's what's happening in Syria.
How long after the start of the peaceful protesting did the Assad regime essentially declare war on you?
Declare war on you, get violent.
Yeah, from the first, the Syrian revolution already started because the Syrian regime arrested around 7 or 8 children from a city called Daraa who wrote on the wall of their school, it's your turn, doctor, as they mentioning Bashar al-Assad. And that was after the Arab Spring started. They arrested these kids, they torture them. And when their families come to ask about them and the security forces center, they told them forget about your children and brought a new ones. So from minute when the regime was using all the violence, they were shooting protesters in very direct way. They were shelling cities. That just something no one really could believe all over the world. But what happened in Syria, it was from minute one the regime decided that they will stop at nothing to crush the Syrian people.
So once the bombing began and once the revolution became more serious, you went to medical facilities, these sort of makeshift hospitals, and you met your future husband, Hamza, who is a doctor. Describe falling in love with him against the backdrop of this terrible war.
I would say, like, at the beginning, we were just like friends, but, to create that relationship in that place where you don't know when at any second you could be killed, to start, like, build your family, because we, like, everyone who went to that place, we went just like alone as a protesters or as an activist, and we start to build that community in that situation. Like, in all that bad circumstances, you always, like, find hope and find strength. One of the main things give me that hope was, like, Hamza, which he is like he's such a hero even for me, but like, he's smiling all the time. He's one of the very lovely people who have very strong feeling about something, and he really don't care to be killed for that thing. And that relationship between us, like, in despite all the death around us and despite everything, we felt that we wanna just, like, ignore and forget everything was happening with our personal life, with the big situation that's happening, and just we want to create this, like, little small family in that situation.
For me, watching the movie, I marveled at the fact that there was levity, you guys in the hospital, the doctors making jokes with their masks, and there was smiling and laughing. And is that just to keep your sanity throughout it all?
Like, I've never thought about why we did that, but I think this is something of any human being all over the world who had very tough situation, they will find, and, like, even if they didn't find hope, they will create that hope. And that's what really we felt, all of us, like, like Afra, the other woman in the film, who was all the time, like, just smiling and cracking jokes. The staff of the hospital, like, you need to find a way to stay alive, especially when you are, like, being crushed by a very big violence and you believe in freedom. You feel that what you are doing is so important. It's really like the only thing we will have now is, like, to keep this life between us and be strong all together.
Can I just jump in as well?
Please,
I've made documentaries for over 10 years in conflict zones all around the world, from Afghanistan, where I've been with US soldiers, to Congo, to Yemen. And, that humor, that levity you're talking about, it exists in all of those places. And I think it is one of the most special things about human beings, of any race, any religion, any nation, that in the darkest of times is when they still find humor, and they still find those parts of their soul, that are the best parts of them, I would say, to help them get through the night. What's so incredible about what Waad achieved, though, is, in all my years of filming that stuff and seeing it with my own eyes, I never really captured it on camera, but she did. And I think that's one of the reasons why the film is so special.
Edward, Waad shot 500 hours or so of footage. How do you go about turning that into a 100-minute film?
There's the
short answer, which we have always, like,
is 2 words: 2 years. 2 years is the simple answer to that. The long answer is an incredibly detailed process of building a collaboration between the two of us. It took us months just to map the landscape of the footage and of the events that Waad and Hamza and all of their friends had lived through. I mean, if you think about your own life, all the events that happened to you in 5 years, and then they are just, like, magnified 10,000-fold when you've been living through circumstances of revolution and conflict. And so, it was a matter of mapping the landscape, getting to know each other, building trust between each other, and understanding that, we were coming at it from different points of view. Waad obviously being the insider, who'd lived it, me being the outsider, trying to find a way to make that story accessible to audiences who maybe knew nothing about Syria, but also appreciating between us that we both shared the most important thing, which was to do justice to what these guys had lived through, and to Waad's incredible footage, and to the story of Syria. And I mean, I could go on about it all day, but that's the simple version.
How did the two of you come together on this project?
So we actually, like, very, very simple way. We were matchmade from our colleagues from Channel 4 News, where I was when I was working with them in 2016. And then Ed was working with Channel 4 before.
Yeah.
And
I was an independent filmmaker, but I'd done a lot for them.
So after I left Aleppo and I came first time to the UK in February 2017, and no one of my colleagues at Channel 4 News knew what I had, all this like archive and all of these stories. We've never had even chance to chat about that because of I was just like online sending them some material. And when they've seen this material and we start the conversation about we want to do something like bigger, more details, more deeply about the story. And that time when they said like maybe we can find someone to help you with this, because I wasn't able to take that decision alone. And then they introduced us to each other and we met the first time. We felt we could work together, and then we start working together.
Edward, there are some haunting moments in this movie. There's a scene of a little girl painting a bus with a bright color, and she talks about a cluster bomb, or a dad explaining to his child about a family that got killed. When you see things like that, what do you think? Well, yeah, I mean, a whole range of emotions and feelings really going through the footage. I mean, those two moments you've actually you've cited there are actually examples, I think, of the best of the human spirit that we were talking about earlier, about how parents and children still continue trying to live their normal lives, even under intense bombardment by modern militaries. And I always took those scenes as such a beautiful example, basically, of how human beings just keep going, even in the most difficult circumstances. But there are, as you say, so many tragic and heartbreaking moments and scenes of human suffering within the film, and so many more in the footage that we just couldn't include. But I think the thing that I felt right from the start, and it was something that I know Waad and I shared very much, was that in the West, I think we're so sheltered from that human reality, and it really does a disservice to us, because it means that people, they just don't know what's going on. They can't make judgments. If you haven't seen what the consequences are of Assad shelling a school or a hospital, then maybe you do think it's a good idea for Assad to stay in power, because you don't understand the human face of the crimes that he's committing. And I think one of the things that we felt was, as tough as so much of this material is, we had to include it to show respect to our audience and to show them the truth that perhaps they'd never been able to come in contact with before. And in the response of audiences around the world, I think it was a good thing, because we've seen so many people come back to us and say, my God, I didn't know this was happening, and I'm so sorry.
And from another point of view, to respect the people who went through that experience, to make their experience real, and to make people outside realize really what's really happening. As a victim, as one of these people who were inside a hospital, when I was knew that some channels outside or some media, papers, newspapers or something, they were saying no, this picture are too much. We can't put it for people outside to watch or to see. We really felt that we were hurt by that things, because I know it's hard for people outside to watch, but this is reality. This is our children. This is our life. And really people need to know that truth.
Yeah, I tell you, one of the moments, to me, the most heartwarming moment was when that little boy, I think he was your best friend's son, was asked what he wanted to do when he grows up. And he said he wanted to be an architect so he can rebuild Aleppo. I mean, just to have such awareness at such a young age was just broke my heart, but made me smile at the same time that this was something that he wanted to do.
Exactly. Actually, the children reaction and response to many things, they were really shocking us in different ways. Even Naya, the daughter, she was 4 years old at that time, when she knows that her mom is crying because very simply she told me in front of the camera Alip was gone. It just so shocking how they understand and how they react. And at the same time, as you said, it's you can smile, but also there's so much pain in your heart for these children.
This film is obviously, her name is in the title, dedicated to your daughter, Sama. You said at one point in the movie, you never cry like a normal baby would. That's what breaks my heart. Do you think she, as a baby, had any sense of that danger, or was that just her reality, what she had always known?
I really don't know until now. I hope I could have, or I was able to know that. But really, in that situation, you can't just process what's happening. And even now, I'm trying to focus more about her now, not focusing about what she really seen when she was there. It's so hard and complicated, and at the same time, to look at the children right now who still suffering from the same circumstances. I know my daughter now is in a safer place, she's warm, she eat very well, everything is fine, but there is now more than 1 million child who's trapped in Idlib, the last area out of the regime control. And just literally 15 minutes ago, we got a news about a hospital who was targeted in that area.
Edward, people don't realize, it's funny, in the United States, most people know that there is some terrible war in Syria, but don't understand why or the dynamics of it. But it's important to recognize that this is still going on, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, as Waad just said, there was a hospital that was hit by the Russians just last night, and blown up. And I think that's one of the things that we hope the film can do. It really, this film, it doesn't get lost in the sort of, then this happened and that happened on the political level. It's about what was the soul of this conflict. And one of the things that we're trying to convey to people, especially in America, is that these are people just like them who are actually hold their values, American values of freedom and human dignity, and human independence, the right to so many basic things that America has. They shared those values and they peacefully protested for them in the spirit of Martin Luther King or Gandhi. They were marching in the streets in the way that those guys did, and yet they were met by a level of government violence, as Waad mentioned earlier, which I don't think we've seen since the Second World War, pretty much. And that's what we're trying to get at and tell people in America, just how much they share with people in Syria. And the conflict, became so brutal and so horrific because of the actions of the government, but not because of the people. And I hope that, the more Americans can come in contact with that truth, they might just be more motivated to do something about the atrocities that are still going on, as you say, to this day.
Waad, you have asylum in the UK. Do you think you will ever be able to go back to Syria?
To be very honest, I can distinguish very well between what I really hope and what I really think. I don't see any soon solution for what's happening in Syria, as well as all the government. They let Assad do what he's doing every day, and they're just still watching. But my hope, and I live every day just to reach that day when I can be back to Syria, out of Assad, out of Russia, and be in your country as we want it to be. For me, Hamza and our kids, we smuggled back to Aleppo when we knew that we will be besieged, and we didn't mind to be killed at that day. And I will do the same when the time will really allows me to do that.
Do you have any family or friends that are still in Syria?
Not my immediate family, and my parents fled right before we published the film. My sister, my brother are also in Turkey. So it's very risky, for anyone who could relate it to me and to the film to be inside Syria now.
Edward, you've now won awards at film festivals all over the world. You're nominated for the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature. What does that acclaim mean to you?
I think the most important thing is, well, two things I would say. You know, when Waad and I, because Waad filmed the whole thing for 5 years before we even met, and then she and I worked together for 2 years on the film. And during those 2 years, so many people said, oh, look, this is a film about Syria. Everyone's tired of it. No one understands it. You know, maybe it'll get into one festival and then disappear. And what we've seen is actually people are so hungry for this film. You know, it's gone from Mexico to Kosovo to Korea, and all over the world, people have engaged with it. And as you say, it's won awards, and that has really given us like hope, because it makes you think, well, people maybe aren't as apathetic as we think they are. If you tell the story in the right way, people will connect with the fate of other people, even if it's thousands of miles away. So that's one thing. And I think when it comes to all the awards, in particular the Academy Award, the best thing is really, it's just so great to be able to connect this film and this story with a bigger audience, and to have a platform to talk about our messages. Like, we built up a whole advocacy campaign off the back of the film, trying to build pressure on the Russians and the regime to stop targeting medical facilities. You know, it's a sad thing. We live in a world where we like have to campaign to protect hospitals, but that's the reality. And so all these awards are really just giving us such a boost to try and help people in the real world.
Waad, you will have gone from, you know, your war-torn homeland to a red carpet with the biggest stars in the world there. What are your expectations about that night, the night you're at the Academy Awards?
So so far we went in very like quite good places. Like, we went to Cannes, we had like so many amazing like really red carpets.
We've been on a couple of red carpets.
Yeah. And like all of them are really very important platform to shed the light on what's happening right now in Syria. We like raised these signs about stop bombing hospitals in Cannes and in the NBR
National Board of Review
award. And we're really trying to use every platform we are in, just like to speak with people, to tell them to watch the film, to make them understand what's happening. And like the Academy will be, you know, one of the best of these platforms, as well as the BAFTA, like just 1 week before the Academy. So I'm really so proud and so honored to be in these places with these people, and, you know, like trying to, you know, I feel like sometimes it's quite weird because, you know, for me, when I started, I wasn't a filmmaker, and through these 5 years, I just like did everything I should do. It wasn't about, you know, making a film or whatever. And even now, like our film is like the little one between all the big names and the big like production companies. So, you know, like I feel like so honored to be equals with them in so many like nomination, and sometimes we won over other people. So it's like, it's really, I feel that really this place is not just as, you know, like Hollywood things, you know, but it also really care about humanity and care about the stories itself, the life behind these stories. And I'm really so honored to be here.
Yeah, you know, we're chasing a lot of those stars around as well at events with little cards saying, like, have you watched the film? Have you watched the film? That's.
Like, I promise Brad Pitt next time will see me, he will like be, please go away.
Keep popping up like around them saying, hey, have you watched the film yet, Brad? You know?
Oh, that's great.
Well, the movie is called For Sama. It is available for streaming on Amazon Prime. It is heartbreaking and emotional and necessary. And we congratulate both of you on just an amazing accomplishment.
Thank you so much.
Great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for doing this. Wow, what can you say after that? I mean, watching this documentary, it feels like you've been through some semblance of what they went through.
Absolutely. I mean, that was the thing that was just so emotional as a viewer, you know? I mean, it was hard to not feel like you were actually there and like, oh God, when is it going to happen? When is there going to be a bomb? You know, what's going to happen, you know, to these people? I mean, it was just, but I tell you, the judge at the grand jury judge at South by Southwest.
Yes.
I love what he said about it. He said it was a harrowing yet tender love story, gorgeous, moving filmmaking. And that really capsulizes it.
Well, strongly recommend For Sama. I think it should win the Academy Award the night of February 9th, and we wish Waad and Edward the very best and send our congratulations. To check out that film, it is on Amazon Prime streaming video right now. Sue, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Back soon with another Culture Pop podcast.
Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. We'll see you next week for an all-new episode of Culture Pop.